Hey, my name is Blake from the Gig Harbor Fly Shop, and I am a fishing guide that guides out of Hobie kayaks, and I've had a Hobie Outback since the 2019 new remodel came out, and so I thought I would give a review about guiding and fishing out of the Outback over the last 4 years, as well as some do's, don'ts, and tips. So I've actually had two different models since the release of the 2019 Hobie Outback redesign, and fall of 2018 I got an Outback, and I've been guiding for Sea Run Cutthroat out in Puget Sound, as well as doing some different lakes fishing with it, some coastal adventures, as well as doing some different salmon fishing out of it as well for like kings and stuff like that. And so I really like the Outback. I like how it handles in rough water compared to the Pro Angler. I like how fast the boat drains when you're taking waves over it, but I don't really like how the water pools around that front hatch. And so one of the do's I would say, or maybe the don'ts, is don't keep your essential stuff in that front hatch that you need to access very often. If it gets rough out, you're fishing like maybe on the salt water, it can be difficult to get up there and to get into the thing. You don't want to just leave one bungee on it because you can get water then under the hatch. So keep your essential things maybe in the hatch that's under your legs in that deck. There's a big black hatch right there, or behind you in like an H crate. I won't say to not stand in the Outback because you can definitely stand in the Outback, but if you want to stand a lot, maybe you're a fly angler that wants to predominantly stand while casting, the Pro Angler is much more stable. I do like the rudder that's on the Outback compared to the old Outback, but I would say that the rudder in the inflatable series and the Lynx is a much better rudder than what's on the current Outback. Okay, one of the do's for me is in the wintertime fishing, I usually wear a dry suit in the Outback. In the Pro Angler, sometimes I won't wear a dry suit depending on the water that I'm fishing, just because it's so stable. I know I'm not going in, but the Outback, you just don't have the stability that the Pro Angler has. And so unless I'm going like pretty far offshore, then I'm always wearing a dry suit. Okay, here's a do not for the Outback. Do not load the thing onto a wheel cart by picking up the front of the kayak. It's awkward, it's hard to reach the wheels, and you're putting strain on that back rudder. Pick up the back of the kayak to be able to get the wheels in those scupper holes that are right behind the seat. Also, when you're loading it up, if you're gonna put it in a vehicle, you can also just pick up the back of the Outback and throw that in there. If you're gonna pick up the front to load it, use the loader that comes included. Don't put all that strain on that back rudder. And that also goes for draining the kayak. If you're gonna drain it, put the loader on there to kind of help you keep it off that rudder. Maybe even have a friend help. We find that just draining with two people is a much easier job. The CTW seat is super comfortable in the Outback, but make sure that when you install the seat, check on both sides that the seat is locked in. If you just have one side locked in and the other side isn't, you don't realize it, that can end up being pretty terrible, because you can fall out of the boat because the seat will give way and kind of flip you out if you lean too much. So make sure that seat is locked in. I do like how in the Pro Angler, the seat is easier to lock in and know that it's locked in compared to having to double check with the Outback. Definitely a do is add the H-Rail upgrade kit to the Outback. It's a cheap investment, and it's great to have. If you're gonna stand up, it's great to hold on. It adds just a lot to the feel of the boat. Lastly, one thing I would say to do is to use an H-Crate for right behind you. The H-Crate is great for holding rods, for storing boxes of gear and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people want to take the wheels and put the wheels upside down right behind their seat, but Outback has a great feature where you can store the wheels at the very back of the boat, out of the way and out of reach. So when you're fishing, you can still bring them with you, but you don't have to worry about them being in the way, hitting your elbow on them when you're reaching around to try to get stuff out of your H-Crate. Well, I hope that was helpful for those of you that are looking at maybe getting an Outback. Maybe you're upgrading from a paddling kayak and you really want to get into the pedal drive fishing kayak game. You should do it. The Outback's a great place to start. I'm going to do a video on an overview like this on Pro Angler fishing as well, because I've spent even more time in a Pro Angler than I have in an Outback. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.